Others show us our inner speech. The premise of our Neville Goddard conversation today is this quote: "Our inner conversations represent, in various ways, the world we live in. Our individual worlds are self-revelations of our own inner speech. Our formless self I, as we discussed in Thursday's video, moves through states. There are infinite states, and our world is a mirror, reflection of those states. The I, awareness, one with the awareness of all, transcends what we do and how we emotionally relate to our experiences. It does, however, experience these aspects in accordance with the state it fuses with. You can speak yourself into any state, and from there, everything happens naturally and automatically to realize your vision." Now, when I look back on my journey, when it comes to relating with others, I realized that my own beliefs, what I was subconsciously identifying with, which were part of the state of mind that I was in. So a state of mind is a body of beliefs. As I was aware of what was going on in my experiences, and I saw a belief playing out, for example, a client would show up, and they would have a conversation with me about how they were not able to achieve the success that they desire. And I realized right then and there, they were reflecting my own state of mind. They were revealing, via the conversation, my internal dialogue. We start with I. As he says, they are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself and they will confirm the change. So I suggested to myself, they are their ideal now, inside. I said it inside. And I would observe as the conversation would change, real time. They would start to reveal the state that I was in by communicating to me that they already knew how to achieve the success that they desire. They would come up with their own solutions. And there were moments where I would think of a certain solution, and they would repeat it verbatim in the conversation. That's because it's the same I. The I has neither face, form, nor figure, but it does mold itself into structure by all that it consents to, all that it believes. So I believe in that moment that they are that person. I entered into that state, and the conversation changed. Now, the same thing has happened in my personal relationships. It seems that before an argument would play out, in which there was finger pointing and blaming the other person, and the conversation seemed to go in circles, I realized that I'm traveling through states, and my inner conversations represent in various ways the world I live in. They reveal to me my state of mind, and I observe, without identifying with, what my inner conversation is in relation to the experience with the other person. And as we're taught, we put off the former conversation. We change the internal conversation. We're having fun now. This is a fun experience. We understand each other. And upon thinking feelingly of this suggestion, I enter into a different state. And what I notice is that the conversation changes. The conversation plays out from what I have suggested to myself. And so every day we have an opportunity to be aware of what we're communicating as we're imagining another person, which is revealed in the words that they say and the words that we say as we're communicating with them. We will notice that it is in sync with our inner conversations. And feeling is the secret. We know what state we're in by how we feel. And we can suggest to ourselves, harmonious relationship now. And as we do that, we notice the interaction changes. When working with this power, as he says here, do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself and they will confirm the change. And so we select a different state instantly. As he says here, So the changing of the feeling of I is a selective thing, but the I is not the state. The I believes itself to be the state when it enters and fuses with it. So we feel ourselves into a different state by imagining what implies. Looking beyond the seeming evidence of the senses, recognizing that reality is inside. They are harmonious now. They are their ideal now, which is to do unto ourselves. We are our ideal now. And from there we understand to a deeper degree what was stated. The question is often asked, what should be done between the assumption of the wish fulfilled and its realization? Nothing. It is a delusion that other than assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you can do anything to aid the realization of your desire. Everything happens automatically. All that befalls you, all that is done by you happens. You'll notice, you'll say different things if things are to be said. They'll say different things if things are to be said. And so remember, as he had indicated, states are complete with beliefs and how we act and also how we emotionally relate with others. Very important. No need to shame, condemn, or dwell. Imagine what it implies and enter into your ideal state. From there, everything plays out naturally, effortlessly, and harmoniously. And he says, so now we understand how wise the ancient was when he told us in the Hermetica, there are two gifts which God has bestowed. These two are mind and speech, and the gift of mind and speech is equivalent to that of immortality. With the gift of mind and speech, you create the conditions and circumstances of your life. So as we think feelingly of ideal, desirable, loving attributes in ourselves or another, we immediately enter into that state. The I believes itself to be the state when it enters and fuses with it, in which, as he says, everything happens automatically. All that befalls you, all that is done by you, happens. We are formless consciousness, and that which we conceive ourselves to be is a reflection of the particular ideas we hold true. And the states are complete. They are a body of beliefs. We notice, as we suggest to ourselves, whatever implies a state, how we interact with others and how they interact with us is a mirror reflection of that state. Behaviors, emotional relatability, an automatic, you'll notice this, inner conversation that plays out that's ideal, which then we can notice that others seem to read our minds. They might even say to you, you are reading my mind. This was happening in all states. And it's important to not shame and condemn other states. This releases the unnecessary identification to certain seeming persistent states. One state is not better than the other. You select the state. You are that person now. I am in an ideal relationship now. Acceptance of that suggestion fuses I with that state, in which what we say, what we do, what they say, what they do, how we behave, how they behave, how we emotionally relate, happens automatically. And I would recommend suggesting to yourself, it's easy now to select whatever state I desire. I am whole and complete inside. Everything exists within me. I have the freedom in mind, the peace in mind, the love in mind, to select any state instantaneously. And what you'll also notice is that state will become your natural dwelling place in which you don't need to consciously suggest to yourself anything, but rather you'll be aware of an inner conversation that plays out from the premise of your fulfilled desire. As he says here, our inner conversations are perpetually outpictured all around us in happenings. And this is happening subconsciously. So he says, therefore, what we desire to see and hear without, we must see and hear within. for the whole manifested world goes to show us what use we have made of the word. We can simply suggest to ourselves in less than a second anything that implies, such as the statements that I just shared, to bring you into that state of mind, with which from there, the ideal inner conversations play out automatically. Now, as we work with this, we realize that this is an art. This is a fun, joyous, blissful, natural way of being. There's no power outside greater than your inner speech. We have the ability to be aware of the inner conversations that are playing out. And if it's not in harmony, we can enter into a different state, as we'll notice as the formless self, the seer, the ideal inner conversations playing out in relation with ourselves and the other person. And we'll notice that the other person shows up echoing that inner conversation. So as we work with the infinite power of imagination, it's important to remember what he says here. Do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself, and they will confirm the change. And as mentioned, this is an art, which I discovered in 2004 with Think and Grow Rich, in which he discussed it to a certain degree in the subconscious mind and autosuggestion chapter, in which when I began implementing the information, I noticed that this art of mind became easier and fun. I worked with a client, again implementing this, by not trying to change them, but changing my own inner conversation in relation to them. And they changed. His business grew rapidly. He has a wonderful lifestyle in San Diego. And when I go down there to visit him, we have a great time. And all I did was be aware of my inner conversations. All the power existed, exists, and shall always exist within you. Everything else gets taken care of, and all we do is use the two gifts of speech and mind to imagine ourselves and others lovingly, ideally. So in summary, we can suggest to ourselves anything that implies an imagination and think feelingly into any state of mind. And each state is complete, in which everything happens automatically to the fulfillment of the desire in that state. We take the responsibility inside by suggesting to ourselves that our relationship is ideal now. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an autosuggestion to further encourage. We can say, I realize everything happens effortlessly, automatically, in a fun, flow-based way. I am my ideal now. I realize now everything happens automatically as I am my ideal now. Who I desire desires me. Who I love loves me. All people show up harmoniously to echo my inner conversation from the premise of love now. There is no power outside greater than my conscious, loving inner speech. Reality rearranges to reflect the automatic inner conversation that plays out from the premise of my fulfilled desire. How I act, how others act, how we emotionally relate happens ideally and automatically as I think feelingly of how I am my ideal now. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.